ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the International Labour Organization, I accept with deep appreciation the US Department of Labour 2021 Iqbal Masih Award for the elimination of child labour. This award is particularly important for us because of where it comes from, the United States government, and because of the issues to which it relates. It is particularly satisfying that this award comes at a timely moment as we approach the World Day Against Child Labour, and it also falls in the United Nations International Year for the Elimination of Child Labour. This has been a long journey. In 1919, when the ILO was founded, the spotlight was already on child labour. Indeed, this was one of the biggest motivations in the creation of our organisation, reflected in the very first Convention on a Minimum Age in Industry, which was adopted at the very first ILO conference in Washington. Over the years, while child labour has declined in some places and sectors, it was growing elsewhere, very often unacknowledged and unrecognised. And even as late as the 1980s, we had to contend with widespread, considerable indifference, resignation, and denial. We had to focus on establishing the facts, undertaking pioneering research that shed light on the problem and abuses of child labour, and then use these facts to bring global awareness on the need for concerted action against child labour. And then, in something of a breakthrough in 1992, as awareness and commitment started to become more tangible, we launched the International Programme for the Elimination of Child Labour, IPEC, working with the first countries who wished to take systematic action to end child labour. And this programme has now expanded to include forced labour, and it is active in some 66 countries. As we know, nearly half of all of those who are in child labour are in hazardous work, work that is dangerous for their physical and psychological integrity. And as we have worked together to develop our action, we are delighted, of course, to have developed alliances and partnerships and to have benefited from the support of member states, notably the United States, and of certain prominent individuals. And I want to mention here Senator Tom Harkin, who was a champion and is a champion of the fight against child labour and is also a past recipient of this prestigious award. Ladies and gentlemen, our efforts have borne fruit. With your support, the support of the United States and many other partners, over the last 2 decades, we have helped to remove nearly 100 million children from child labour. We have built trust, we have forged partnerships, we have drawn lessons that have helped governments, employer, worker, and their organisations and other stakeholders to shape the policies and strategies that go to the roots of child labour and that must be the foundation for lasting change. There is broad global awareness that child labour is wrong, that it cannot be part of sustainable development, and that it must stop. There is no fatality about the existence of child labour, and moreover, we have learnt a lot about how to bring it to an end. In August 2020, as has been mentioned, we reached a historic milestone with the universal ratification of ILO Convention 182 on the worst forms of child labour, today ratified by all of the ILO's 187 member states. It is unique testimony to a real global commitment to ending child labour. But today, that commitment has to confront the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, This pandemic threatens to reverse hard-won progress. The new global estimates on child labour, released by the ILO in collaboration with our friends at UNICEF, show that global progress has stalled and even been reversed for the first time since we started producing such estimates 2 decades ago. This has to be cause for deep concern, because the pandemic has heightened the risk of child labour, above all through the sharp rise in poverty and vulnerabilities, which can lead families to send their children to work. And without urgent mitigation measures and stronger social protection systems, the COVID-19 crisis is likely to push millions more children into child labour. The fact is that many children are still missing out on the opportunity of education that can help them to secure a better future, because more than a quarter of children aged from 5 to 11 and over a third of children aged 12 to 14 who are in child labour are out of school as well. So we are all called upon to make a renewed effort to support children, to support families in situations of often acute vulnerability, to get children into the classroom, to help them make up for lost learning once they are there, and to promote access to decent work for adults. These new estimates that we are publishing are a wake-up call, and the COVID-19 pandemic puts us to the test. Ending child labour must feature centrally in the human-centred and inclusive recovery that the world needs from the COVID-19 crisis. And that will take political will, consensus around coherent policy approaches, and of course, financing for the implementation of the policies that are needed nationally and internationally. The reality is that a new generation of children are at risk. It's time to break the cycles of poverty, deep inequality, and of child labour. And this award motivates all of us at the ILO to keep up the fight with your help, and I thank you.